even in high school, in primary school, I started in drama club, you know. So somewhat I'm used to the stage. Someone played me, so I had to close the show. It keeps you alert. Your thoughts are just racing at 100 miles per hour.
This would have all gone at that time if you had not gotten help. Wow. Okay. Hi, thank you for joining us. My name is Nancy Wanjiru Kabiru and I'm a psychologist with Hisia Psychology Consultants. Today we have a guest in studio with us. She's a very close friend of mine, a bubbly personality. She is an inspiration to me. We meet on various social media platforms and we work together. And I'm happy that she accepted to come in studio. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Wariimi. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, thanks Nancy for having me do this interview with you. I feel it's an honor. My name is Wariimi Karingi. I'm a mental health advocate and mental health warrior. But before I got into the mental health industry or space, I used to work in the IT industry. So I worked in the IT industry for about 12 years. And then due to the fact that now my health became an issue, I decided now to move into the mental health space.
So Wariimi, I know we are good friends and most of our viewers probably don't know you're a mental health champion because you're walking the journey. You've been diagnosed with anxiety disorder and you've also gone through depression. Please explain to someone who is going through a challenge in their life right now and they are afraid of going to seek for therapy because of the diagnosis. Let us know how your journey was and what were the symptoms you were experiencing.
My story actually starts in 2015. 2015, I had started, actually from end of 2014, I noticed that I used to get very, very frequent migraines. And I didn't know what was causing them, where they were coming from. I would always go to hospital. I'm just sent home with painkillers or I'm told there's something else. You know, they never really could tell what was going on. So I was diagnosed in June of 2015 and leading up to June, like the headaches were just intense. I literally used to take Beta Pain.
And you know, I can imagine because whenever I've taken Beta Pain, I'd come from theater. So the pain is massive, it's a surgery. So for you to take it and you're taking it from home without undergoing a surgery means it was severe.
It was very severe.
Yes.
Yeah, such that even like the Panadol, extra Panadol, those ones do not work. Yeah. So that's how it started now with the headaches. And then come June of 2015, I happened to be in the office one day and I collapsed in the office. Yeah. So I was rushed to hospital and we did all sorts of tests, but they could not find anything physically wrong with me. And in fact, when we did the full body checkup, I was very surprised because I'd really been abusing my body. I never used to eat well. I used to drink a lot. And actually, after I was diagnosed, I got to realize the reason I was drinking a lot was to suppress the imbalance, the sadness that I used to feel, the worthlessness, hopelessness, you know, all those things. So that's why I used to drink a lot. But yes, physically I was okay. So it took a lot of in and out of hospital, different doctors, different whatever. And as I've mentioned, the headaches were actually the main thing, right? So okay, let me also talk about the other symptoms. So there were headaches. I used to feel numb on one side of my body, so the left side of my body. Then I used to get heart palpitations. Now the heart palpitations now is the symptoms of anxiety. Yeah. It got to a point like even during meetings in the office, if I had to present something, I would be extremely afraid, you know, I would shake, my voice would shake, and I always wonder what's wrong. I mean, I've never been a fearful person. I mean, even in high school, in primary school, I started in drama club, you know, so somewhat I'm used to the stage. But then now it reached a point I started noticing, like I would even hide away from meetings. Like I would prefer to go to another room. So if most of the people are in one room, I would go to another room and then dial into that room. So that now I don't feel the pressure of people watching me. And eventually when I got to see a neurologist, he is the one who diagnosed me with depression and anxiety disorder, and he referred me to a psychiatrist. So initially I did not accept the diagnosis. So I saw about 4 other neurologists, and all of them came up with the same diagnosis. So after seeing the fourth one, I was like, you know what, probably this thing is for real. Let me just go and see a psychiatrist. But I must say, one of the best things about getting that diagnosis is I was like, at least there's a name to it now. We know now what we are dealing with. As much as I was in denial, depression, how can I be depressed? I mean, everything around me is going well. I have a good job. I'm in this relationship that's going very well. My family are supportive. Like, things were going well. So how can I be depressed? So there's more to it then. So initially, now the diagnosis was like, there's more to it than that. I knew I was getting either a stroke, or I knew I had something in my brain, you know. Thought I had a tumor, and they couldn't find it.
You know, I would think, naturally, because of being in IT, I'm not an expert in the field, and I will learn a few skills from you, of course. It's male dominated. So there would be a tendency to assume, especially those many years, you say 12 years experience in the IT industry. Since it's a male-dominated field, that can make you feel anxious, because of course you're also at a stage in life where you're trying to identify with the opposite gender. So most people in the working environment would assume that is the reason, and harbor the signs and symptoms. They don't seek therapy, and the situation gets worse. The other thing I liked about your story is that you didn't settle for one diagnosis. You went for a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, until you were satisfied that yes, it's true. This is what they have been diagnosed with. And if you have resources out there, please go seek your second and third opinion. And the denial process for you, how was it admitting, yes, it has been given a name? How was it for you now? Because there's a process of, oh, now I'm labeled, you know? Exactly. And that's one of the fear people have.
As I said, I was very happy about the diagnosis. And I did mention to you that, fine, I was diagnosed in June of 2015, but I'd actually been suffering with depression and anxiety since 2008. So for 7 years, I'd been struggling. I had the symptoms. And actually, once I was diagnosed, I was like, no wonder. Things now started making sense, because like I found myself, like the smallest things would make me fly off the hanger, and then 2 minutes later I am crying.
Like you're very bold, and then after that, then the flip of it.
Exactly. Yeah. You know? So I used to find myself getting extremely angry, and then the next minute I'm crying. You know, I used to have suicidal thoughts. Now this is between 2008 and 2015. So I used to have suicidal thoughts. Then of course I would beat myself down about it, because I'm like, same thing I told you, I had so many things going on for me. So it was a cycle. Like, I'm not happy, I'll go drink excessively, I'll come home, I'll black out, I wake up in the morning, I have suicidal thoughts, I hate myself. So you can imagine now it just became a whole cycle. It was a very difficult journey, as I said. And then, you know, like now you'll find that with depression keeps you down. You don't have energy, you are constantly sad, you can't get out of bed, you can't eat. And then anxiety, on the other hand, is now the extreme opposite, in terms of it keeps you alert. Your thoughts are just racing at 100 miles per hour. You can't rest, you can't settle down, you can't whatever. So can you imagine now dealing with these two conflicting conditions? It's not a very easy thing to handle. Though sometimes I'll find I'll get now the symptoms of anxiety. So I'll have anxiety attacks, like I was telling you, anxiety and panic attacks, maybe for like 2-3 weeks maybe, and then I'm fine for a month, and then I get into a depressive phase. So it normally just interchanges with each other. For me, what I would tell someone who's going through anxiety, first, of course, there are those ones who do not know what it is. So some of the symptoms that you need to look out for is heart palpitation, headaches, trembling, sweating, persistent sweating, fear, fear that you don't know where it's coming from, isolating yourself because you're afraid of being in a situation where you might get a panic attack. Like you remember a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I told you I got a panic attack while I was cycling with some cycling buddies. And I actually have not gone back to cycling because of that embarrassment or the fear of getting now another panic attack. So I would rather keep away. So if you find like you have those things of isolating yourself because you don't know what is going on, you need to reach out for help. For those ones who already know and they suspect or they know that they have anxiety disorder or depression, seek help, because at least you will start on your treatment, whether you'll be on therapy, whether it will be therapy and medication, whether you'll go for, say, alternative treatment, because there are people who go for alternative treatment. But it's good to know, what is this that what am I dealing with, you know? And if you let it continue, it's going to explode. It's just like a boil, you know? It keeps growing, it keeps growing. If you don't do anything about it, it keeps growing. Because maybe what you can do, if you take antibiotics early, it won't fura as big as it was if, say, for example, you don't take the antibiotics. That is exactly what I went through. But you see, the only difference was that I did not know. Yeah. So by the time I was getting to collapsing in the office, I wasn't able to walk for about 2 weeks. I had to be supported, going to the loo. Yeah, because now the body had started shutting down. Yeah, because it was in such a depressed state that it just couldn't deal anymore, it couldn't handle. And that's where they say that someone can die from depression.
This would have all gone at that time if you had not gotten help. Wow, okay.
And you can see some of the effects that it has had in my life because of getting diagnosed too late or severely depressed. In fact, maybe I should mention this. When it comes to diagnosis, there are different spectrums. So when you go see the doctor, they give you an assessment, and then you fall under different categories. So it's either a mildly depressed or mild to moderate, moderate to severe, and severe. So I was found severely depressed. And because of being severely depressed, there are some tasks that I can't do. For example, I cannot get an 8 to 5 job. If I'm getting a job, it has to be a flexible job where I can, say, be allowed to work from home. I plan my own hours and stuff like that. So you see now and it's not an easy thing to deal with. In fact, even the other day I was telling a friend of mine that even on my wedding day, no, I'm not getting married soon, but I cannot say, we hope soon, but I cannot say that I will be able to show up on my wedding day. You know?
You can't guarantee.
I can't guarantee that, because I could wake up and I'm not well, or maybe the pressure of organizing the wedding is so much such that maybe a week to the wedding I fall sick. You know, so there are all these things. It won't happen in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name, it shall not happen. But of course, you know, when you're in that state, you can't help thinking about some of the things you can't do. How will I be like a mother? Will I be able to be waking up every morning to take care of my children? But someone else now was consoling me and telling me, you know, God may bring you a husband who is able to take care of the children while you're not capable of doing it. You'll get such a hands-on husband, such that who complements, so it no longer be an issue.
I like that. And that explains why. For me, you're an inspiration, Wariimi, because yes, I like your Let's Go Mentor page and how you're always actively busy around it. And I would like to flip the coin, as much as now maybe you're not confined to an 8 to 5 job, you're able to run your own business or your own organization and inspire people while you're doing it. I love that about you, and I'm sure because right now we're advocating to destigmatize mental health, because people have perceptions of mental health, so that people can reach out early, can talk about it. And Hisia, psychology consultant, has worked with Let's Go Mentor, and we will continuously do that. And I like you championing it, so I commend you for that. And I think towards your wedding day, you'll have so many people working around for you that you won't need to stress. Exactly, you won't need to stress. What are some of the methods you have used to manage the anxiety attacks? And if you can recommend that to someone struggling with anxiety.
Let me tell you, anxiety is a very uncomfortable thing. It's so uncomfortable. And you can imagine when you have anxiety before an interview or before something major, you know that fear that you have? It's so intense, but then after the event, it ends. But now imagine someone having anxiety all through the day. You know?
It's constant.
Yeah, it's constant. So one of the things that I find myself struggling with, first of all, is concentration, the heart palpitations. So what I do is, first of all, I make sure I note down the tasks that I need to do. So I always do that, say, every Sunday. Okay, well, I've not completely gotten into the routine kabisa, but I try and make sure that on Sunday I'm going to write down what my tasks, even as simple as I need to wash my sneakers. Yes, I will write that down so that I do not forget that task for the week. Second thing, I avoid caffeine, because caffeine is a stimulant. So it gives the body fight of flight. Yes. So it gives the body that feeling. So I avoid coffee. So what I do is I take a hibiscus tea during the day. Hibiscus tea is very calming. Yes. And then at night, if I feel I'm too anxious, I take chamomile tea. Because you see, when you're anxious, you also can't sleep. You have insomnia. So I take chamomile tea. Of course, there's a journaling. Yeah, so I journal a lot as well. And it's also good to journal because you keep track of your progress. You know, like I last fell sick, say in February. What caused me to fall sick at that particular point? You know, is it this and this and this? So you're like, okay, how did I handle that situation at that point in time? Also reaching out for help, speaking to your loved ones, telling them what exactly you're feeling. Yeah, so speaking to someone, and of course, most importantly, speaking to a professional, to a psychologist, like now Hisia psychology consultants, speaking to someone. And yes, so then now, and there's something that I always tell people. If you feel like you need to seek mental health treatment, always go to a psychologist first. Because a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, and for them, they are trained to dispense medication. But a psychologist will gauge and say, okay, do we just need therapy, or do I need to refer this person out to a psychologist, to a psychiatrist?
I like that, and I know whenever we speak, because we speak very often, you tell me, oh, I'm just from speaking with my therapist. I like the fact that you have embraced the journey. You take your medication, you talk with your therapist, and then you're engaging people on creating awareness. You talk about your journey, meaning there won't be a time that you will go down and nobody notices. Also, keeping social circles is an important aspect, having the proper support, and you have to work for it. I think it is very important for people to know you have to work for this social support, because if you don't put yourself out there, people won't know how to reach to you.
Then maybe let me add on that one for the support system. One of the things that I've learned is that not everyone will understand. It can be your spouse, it can be your mother, it can be your father, it can be, your closest best friend. Not everyone will understand. So we need to just gauge and say, because for me, my mom was coming from a good place. Like in terms of, I think she was in denial that I'm unwell. So she'd be like, yeah, I know you're unwell, but let's pray. Like, she never really accepted it. So even the support didn't come really as much as I would have wanted from her mother. And actually, it took her hearing someone else's story in church to come back and tell me, now it makes sense. So, and that was 3 years into my illness. You can imagine. So for me now, I used to be like, now why can't mom understand? Why can't mom understand? And there's someone who told me that, you know what, think about it this way. She's in denial, you're her child, she's in pain, she doesn't want to whatever. So of course now, it only took her now hearing someone else. It can be your best friend. Your best friend just doesn't want to understand. They are like, no, you don't have depression, you just need to think positive, whatever. So don't let that get to you. Even it can be your wife, can be your husband. It is painful, yes, but just look for that person who will be understanding in your journey. Don't expect everyone to be there for you.
What inspired you to start Let's Go Mentor?
When I left work, I decided to start a business. So I'd always wanted to open a lingerie shop. And when I say lingerie, yes, they're the sexy things, but also intimate wear, usual, even for men and stuff like that. So I was like, this is my opportunity to start the business. So I started it. But now, because you see, I was not able to be there all through. The girls were either stealing from me, or if I didn't have a girl, I would lock the shop for like 3 days. And that's not good for business. So come June 2018, it reached a point now I was noticing that my business is not going to stay afloat for too long. And then unfortunately now, when I was starting to decide what do I want to do I want to take my business purely online, what do I want to do, someone played me. So I had to close the shop. So you can imagine, in 2016 I lost my job. Then 2 years later, 2018, I'm closing a business, which for me was like my lifeline, because I'm like, since I can't work, this business has to work. So you can imagine, I had all that faith in me, and then now this happens. So August, September, October, I was just in the house. I never used to leave the house. I never used to eat. I was just a total mess. Where I used to live, I was on 5th floor, and my balcony used to face a road. And I remember I would go to the balcony and I'm like, you know, if I jump, I will not be, like, I won't leave, you know. So I need to know when I am ready to do this. So I'd go, I'd stand at the balcony at about midnight, 1. So one evening, I just, when I was in the house, I'm like, okay, before I take my life, why don't I use my pain to help other people not get to where I am, you know? So as opposed to now just saying, let me just give up, let me help people. 1, 2, 3. In fact, even my maximum was 3 people. Just 3 people, they get to understand the symptoms so they can get treatment early. And so that is exactly how now Let's Go Mental was started.
Changed the mentality from feeling like a victim to now champion.
So that is how basically I started the journey. I thought about it. I'm like, because you can imagine now I don't have a job, my business has closed, so financially I'm not doing okay. So I decided, you know what, let me start using social media platform to talk about it. So that is how basically it began. There are very many people's lives that have been touched. So many people who have gone to hospital, even some people who have personally driven to their houses, and these are total strangers, driven to their houses, picked them and taken them to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Because I'm like, I don't want just to be like, oh, you know, you need to see a therapist and then I leave that person there. Let me take you till the last part. Then from there, now it's up to you now to pick up from there.
Now, Wariimi, when you were working and the cycle was drinking, and then wanting to give up, what stopped you from giving up?
There were always different things that saved me from actually taking my life. There were totally different things. One would be either, gosh, now what will my family feel when I take my life? There was a time I was like, no, but I want to have children, so I don't want to take my life. Or another one now that has been actually recent is that I would break the hearts of very many people who have inspired with talking about my journey and Let's Go Mental. So it has always been different things. There was also a time, beginning of last year, it was about 1, 2 a.m. in the night, and I was now in that state again, and I was looking at different options. I'm like, should I use a curtain rod? Can I, or do I take my pills? What do I do? For some very strange reason, there's this guy who we are not even close with who kept calling me at 11 a.m. At 1 a.m. Who called someone at 1 a.m.? He kept calling me. First, he tried on WhatsApp. I didn't pick. Tried again on WhatsApp. I didn't pick. He called me directly. I didn't pick. He sent me a message. Then I was like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, first of all, it's 1 a.m. Why is he over insisting? Eventually, now I called him back. I'm like, hey, what's up? Nini. Then he's like, I don't know why. Are you safe? So I was like, why do you ask? He's like, just tell me, are you safe? So I said, actually, no, I'm not trusting myself. So now we started talking about that. And you can imagine, I didn't bring it up to him or whatever. So that was God sending him, just to help me out. One of the signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety is suicide. And people need to know that suicide cannot be prevented, or someone's mind cannot change by you sending them positive posts of, this life is about positive thinking. This person is sick. It's an illness that they're experiencing. It is not their thoughts. Fine, of course the thoughts come into play, but they cannot just flip and fight against these suicidal thoughts. They actually need to get professional help. So for suicide, it's normally an emergency case. So if you feel that you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, or you have a loved one who has suicidal thoughts, try and get that person to get treatment as soon as possible. Yeah. And you don't know. And actually, suicide, people who die by suicide or who attempt suicide do not want to die. Like if you hear the stories of the people who have attempted suicide, they didn't want to die. They wanted the pain to end. And the only solution was to take your life by suicide.
Yes. Okay. And I'm happy because you've brought a few aspects. I hope you feel much better right now.
Yes.
And I'm happy because you have the conviction of the guardian angel being sent to you. Number two, knowing that there are so many people who look out to you aside of your family, and also the feeling of the loss that would happen. So you know you're of importance, and you know you have a life, a journey to go through. I'm happy you've brought up aspects of people who are going through mental health challenges. They will contemplate. So they will look for options, the most less painful or the most convenient way to take their lives. They will isolate, you know, they will overthink. They'll feel unworthy, you know. And that is because at that time the brain is wired that way. But an encouragement to someone who's going through suicidal thought is to look for conviction, the things that speak positively to you, because at that time you need to see the one thing that can work for you. Look for it and make it work. And then if someone is trying to reach out to you, be open enough to just listen to that conversation. Yeah. And you can ask for help. Just say, maybe I need your company right now. Maybe I'm afraid of being alone, so that there is someone who can come and comfort you at the point when you felt your lowest. Because we've mentioned suicide, I think, 2 times. At the point where you felt you are at your lowest, instead of allowing the pain to consume you or the confusion, you then flip the coin and you use that pain to now build the brand you are right now.
I guess within the 2 years that I've done this, going to 3 in October, I do see the effort that I've put to helping people. With what I have done so far, sometimes I see the progress, and sometimes I don't, and I have to have someone reminding me that, you know what you're doing is really helping people, even if it's one person.
Yeah. And I am a witness to that. And I'm so happy. I'm honored because you accepted our invitation. I'm happy because I've been working with you through the journey, as a person who cheers you on, because I know what you're doing is a worthy cause. For me as a practitioner, I do it out of passion, but when I meet someone who has your spirit, it then affirms what I'm doing. When I hear someone like you who is not a trained professional but doing it for somebody free of charge, it then makes it worth the while, and I'm sure you will go places. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for joining me today, Wariimi, and let's make this happen.